Did the ancient Greeks and Romans believe in their gods? One of my students asked me this question, and I really liked it, partly because it made me do some research to adequately answer it, and partly because of the nature of the question. It starts from our own understanding and use of ancient myths, as nice stories about apparently fictional beings, such as in this painting by Titian, showing Sisyphus endlessly pushing a boulder uphill. But its answer requires us to get out of our modern mindset, a mindset influenced by monotheistic, usually Christian, beliefs and by the Enlightenment's deep trust in the power of reason. So we need to get out of this mindset, peruse the ancient evidence, and understand the Greek and Roman religious beliefs and practices on their own terms. So, did the Greeks and Romans believe in their gods? The short answer is yes, but not in the same way that Jews believe in God, that Christians believe in God and Jesus, and that Muslims believe in Allah. According to Charles King, there are three conceptual traits of ancient Greek and Roman religion. First, polymorphism, the idea that gods can have multiple identities with incompatible attributes. Second, orthopraxy, the focus on standard ritual rather than standard beliefs or dogma. And third, pietas, the Roman idea of reciprocal obligation between people or deities within a relationship. Closely related to this third point are two other commonly noted features of Greek and Roman religion, also described in Latin. 4. Do ut des, I give so that you might give to me. And 5. Pax Deorum, literally translated as peace of the gods, but perhaps better translated as peace with the gods. To clarify these ideas, let's look at a few good illustrative examples of ancient literature, inscriptions, and material culture. To help us understand polymorphism, or the multiple sometimes conflicting identities of gods, let's look at the Homeric hymns, a collection of poems orally composed or written primarily during the 7th or 6th centuries BCE and attributed to Homer. A hymn to Athena goes, "Of Pallas Athena, guardian of the city, I begin to sing. Dread is she, and with Ares she loves deeds of war, the sack of cities and the shouting in the battle. It is she who saves the people as they go out to war and come back. Hail, goddess, and give us good fortune with happiness." Now, note that this hymn is also a prayer. It is asking Athena for something, for good fortune with happiness, presumably in the context of wars. The hymn shows that its speaker believes Athena exists, and that she can grant things to humans. All ancient Greeks and Romans believed their gods existed and could interact with the mortal human realm. This hymn in particular emphasizes the martial, warlike qualities of Athena, but this is not her only characteristic in the hymns or Greek mythology. Hymn 20 to Hephaestus reads, "Sing, clear-voiced muses, of Hephaestus, famed for inventions. With bright-eyed Athena he taught men glorious gifts throughout the world, men who before used to dwell in caves and the mountains like wild beasts. But now they have learned crafts through Hephaestus, the famed worker. Easily they live a peaceful life in their own houses the whole year round. Be gracious, Hephaestus, and grant me success and prosperity." Here, Athena's aspect as a craft goddess is emphasized. Athena's aspects as craft goddess and goddess of war are not necessarily incompatible, but stories about Aphrodite's birth are. She is said to have been born from the sea foam at Cythera or Cyprus, or to be the child of Zeus and Dione, or to have been hatched from an egg. All of these cannot possibly be true at the same time, despite ancient and modern attempts to reconcile them. So how does this work? Well, we should not think of a single monolithic mythology. We should think of mythologies, a polythetic system where different stories about the gods and characteristics of each god can exist simultaneously, with some people believing one story and others believing in other stories. But few of these stories are necessarily essential for belief in that god. In our example, ancient Greeks could all believe in the goddess Aphrodite, or Venus in Latin, and her Syrian counterpart Astarte, but they did not need to share the same beliefs about her birth. Similarly, all Greeks and Romans shared the belief that Zeus, or Jupiter, was a sky god and king of the gods, but they may have had different beliefs about what he did as a god. To illustrate other aspects of Greek and Roman religion, let's look at an inscription laying out a ritual. The prescription is attached to a treaty between Miletus and Magnesia on Maeander, two Greek cities on the western coast of Asia Minor. This inscription is from 196 BCE, and it reads, "The permanent Stephophoros, or crown-bearer, with the priest and priestess of Artemis Leucophrene, lead the procession on the 12th of the month Artemision, and sacrifice the exhibited bull. In the procession with them are to be the Senate, the priests, the appointed and lottery-chosen magistrates, the young men, the youths, the boys, those who have won the competitions in the Leucophrene, and all others who have won crown competitions. The Stephanophoros leading the procession is to bring the wooden images of all the 12 gods in their finest attire. He is to erect a tholos in the agora at the altar of the 12 gods. He is to prepare 3 beds as fine as possible. He is to furnish players, a flutist, a piper, and a harpist. On the 12th of the month of Artemision, the stewards are to furnish 3 victims, which they are to sacrifice to Zeus Sosopolus, to Artemis Leucophrene, and to Apollo Pythios. For Zeus, a ram, the finest obtainable. For Artemis, a goat, and for Apollo, a he-goat, sacrificing to Zeus on the altar of Zeus Osopolus, and to Artemis and Apollo on the altar of Artemis. The priests of these gods are to have the customary portions. When they sacrifice the bull, they are to distribute to all the participants in the procession. The ram, the she-goat, and the he-goat are to be distributed to the Stephanophoros, the priestess, the polemarchs, or generals, the presiding magistrates, the temple wardens, the magistrates, and those who have rendered public service. The stewards are to distribute these portions. When the stewards have exhibited the bull, they are to farm him out that he may be nourished by a contractor. The contractor is to lead the bull to the agora. He is to collect from the grain merchants and other merchants what is fitting for his nourishment. It is better for those who give. The stewards are to record this vote at the temple of Zeus. Note that this inscription does not specify any beliefs that the participants in the ritual must hold. They only must believe that Zeus, Apollo, and Artemis exist, and that they will be pleased by the sacrifices. Additional beliefs are flexible. Despite the lack of specificity regarding beliefs, the inscription is very specific about how the ritual should be performed. It specifies what animals are to be sacrificed, how the bull should be fed, the minimum required participants in the ritual, the day of the ritual, the decorations, which altars are used, where the animals are sacrificed, and who gets to eat their cooked meat. Greek and Roman religion required strict observance of ritual norms and behavior. This is orthopraxy, proper practice and behavior, as opposed to orthodox, standard, shared beliefs. Indeed, this proper behavior is a very common theme of Roman religious imagery. Here you see a sculptural relief showing the Emperor Marcus Aurelius sacrificing a bull. The inscription also hints at why these rituals happened. The prescription regarding the nourishment of the bull closes with, "It is better for those who give." Here we have the principle of do ut des, I give so that you might give to me. The Greeks and Romans sacrificed animals, offered wine, cakes, and incense, made vows, and prayed to their gods in order to ask, or bribe, as it were, the gods to favor them in some way. In the first Homeric hymn we read, the prayer was for Athena to grant good fortune, presumably in war. Assuming the prayers were all successful, these prayers maintained the Pax Deorum, peace with the gods. The gods were happy and would not punish the worshippers. This principle is illustrated most vividly and memorably in the first book of the Iliad. Chryses, a priest of Apollo, reminds the god of all the sacrifices he has made to the god and asks him to punish the Achaeans for abducting and refusing to ransom his daughter. Because of the priest's loyalty, the god sends a plague to the Achaean camp until the priest's daughter is returned. This episode from the Iliad reflects the final aspect of Greek and Roman religion, pietas, or the idea that relationships required people to perform appropriate reciprocal actions based on each being's power in the relationship. Because Apollo is so powerful, he must be worshipped by the mortals. Because of this reverence, Apollo must reciprocate with favors, such as a plague upon the priest's enemies, when a favor is requested or needed. To sum up, yes, the Greeks and Romans believed in their gods, that they existed, that they could interact with mortals, that they were polymorphic, or consisted of multiple, sometimes conflicting attributes, depending on who believed what. Due to the idea of pietas, or reciprocal and reverential behavior, the gods ought to be worshipped according to the rules of ritual behavior, or orthopraxy. This worship sought favors from the gods and to maintain the Pax Deorum. More generally, that the gods would always remain on their side.